think in the beginning there was such a little understanding of special educational needs. When I started teaching, you had your class. There was no input from anyone else if a child was experiencing difficulties. And so a diagnosis such as autism or dyslexia was just, it was something we didn't consider. I've been in education since the mid-70s, based mainly in the East End of London. I worked altogether in Hackney for 40 years, which covers quite a lot of different experiences within the borough. And when we're talking about special needs at that time, we're talking really about extreme levels of children underachieving, children with significant behaviour problems, or children who were seriously disabled. And on the whole, those children were then isolated in special schools. So those children that you had in mainstream who had, say, moderate learning difficulties or problems not achieving on a par with the rest of the pupils, no one really asked you the sort of questions you do now. If we take the 70s into the 80s, it may be that that information would just highlight that a child would have learning difficulties or that child wouldn't be achieving on a par with classmates.
I spent most of my secondary school experience not being diagnosed with autism. I didn't know about it until like year 11-ish, so right at the tail end. But it was not good. I always felt like, oh, I'm different. I don't really fit in here. I do not know why. And it would take me until year 11 to figure out, oh, that's why. But yeah, honestly, it doesn't really feel like I had the proper support that someone would need. I mean, you had the TAs who would try their best, but that was the kind of general, hey, okay, we'll help you out with a maths question, and not like, okay, I can see you're struggling here.
I think, first of all, late diagnosis can be problematic because there are few systems in place. That child could already be attaining standards that are quite low, which makes catch up really that much more difficult. And transferring from a small primary school into secondary, into a large organisation where it's about making new friends, getting to know new staff, getting to know new systems, can itself be problematic. Now, fortunately, my experience is that in most cases now, children are identified preschool, so they come in already with an understanding that they will need a different approach to their learning.
Making new friends was tough at the start. I had people from my old primary school to talk to start, and over the time I have made new friends here.
So like, I never felt like the school was like, okay, we're gonna try, I don't know, find you a small little group, or try find ways to help you feel more confident talking with people, because that's something I always struggled with, still do now sometimes, but especially in secondary school where I would just not approach anyone. I would not go up to anyone to say, talk to them, say hi or anything. It would just be like, you come up to me and I might talk if I feel comfortable.
As they offered up some clubs for us to attend to, like Interact, like to where you could play board games with other people. They had the Lego club after school on a Friday, which was similar to Interact. And there was also speech and language therapy sessions I had.
If I actually had the support there in place, so I could have someone help me not get too stressed out of my mind, control the anxiety, just help me find ways for me to kind of get the information in my head, then I've always thought I would have done a lot better.
One of the biggest problems that happened in this borough was that children, when they transferred at secondary level between 6 and 7, usually went to many different schools. So secondary schools would be taking pupils from an awful lot of different primary schools. So the communication between secondary and primary schools could be quite difficult, simply because it was such a vast job at that time.
I didn't really cope. I just kind of suffered through it for 5 years. Just, try to get through the day as quick as I can and then go home and then cry or something like that. And then when it came to the GCSEs, it was just a lot of trying to calm the breathing, because that's when it got really bad. There was genuinely days where I'd go home and just go mad. Like one day I just could not stop laughing because I was so overwhelmed with emotion that my body just went into a bit of a shutdown, and I was sitting on the floor laughing off. I didn't know what was funny. I didn't know why I was laughing, but I think I was just so overwhelmed from everything happening and all these expectations and all the pressure, both from like what the school would put on me and myself, that my body just went.
Exams like the GCSEs, I would be taken to another room, to like a quiet room, to do the exams, and I did have someone next to me to like support me with like reading the question, just to get a better understanding of it.
I am genuinely happy with what I got. I passed my GCSEs. I'm happy with that. Pretty much it was a 4 in Spanish, 6 in English Lit, 7 in English Language, and 5 in everything else.
And trying to get work completed in a certain time frame, that could also be challenging at times, because at the time I was a pretty slow learner. I still find myself to be a slow learner at times, but that's what the teaching assistants were here for, so I was able to get around to learning eventually.
Hard to believe that when I first started teaching, there were no computers. We didn't even have photocopiers. And our most important piece of technology was a bander machine. And within a period of time, I saw the introduction of computers, whiteboards, iPads, the lot. And what you see through that is that certain things like iPads can certainly help children. And those children who find, say, handwriting really difficult, that they can be supported so that they can write far more easily without having to go through a process that other children would find quite easy.
Well, the school has done a decent amount already, although there are people that don't understand their autism, and they would want a better understanding of what makes them autistic or neurodivergent.
If I had some people there who knew like how I was as a person, how I see things, how I take things in, having someone there, I probably would have been able to do so much better without completely destroying my mental health and going into just like...
I think there needs to be a lot more research in schools from early years through secondary with the issue of autism. I think we know a lot, and I think our development of neuroscience has given us a lot more information. But I think we need to know far more, because I think if we take children who are actually in the autism bracket and we look at this group, I think we should be looking at that number of children, because I think the spectrum is far, far wider than we currently understand, and I think we need to do far more research to understand those patterns of behaviour that I think cover far more children than we currently would identify.
There are going to be people who are going to struggle and are going to need specific little changes to make it easier for them. Because in the end, there needs to be this thing of equity. Everyone needs to be given the same chance to succeed. Every student is different. It's not just a class of equal robots who can do every task perfectly. You have 2 autistic people in the same class. No guarantee they're going to have the same difficulties or learn the same way. One could learn a lot more visually, one could learn more through having it explained further,
just because two people have the same sort of condition, it doesn't mean they're going to learn the same.